Good evening, Blackwood Insomniacs. It's your local ghost storyteller, here, Clifford. If you're still awake, you're in the right place. Thank you for everyone's support. I am so grateful. The channel has grown so much these past few weeks, and I can't wait to see Alex's face when he sees it. I'm a little unsure about this week's story. There's the tapping in the wall, jump tower, the fall, and another jump tower story. Oh no. Wait, this one he was still busy with. It's not complete. The library, also not finished. Ooh, the open grave murder. That must be the murder that started the Delta Theta Rho tradition. Nope, not finished. I am running out of stories. Well, stories I would like to read. Guess I'm gonna have to start looking at some of the stories Alex was still working on and try finishing them. Let's read the comments. Well wishes. Thank you all so much. A lot of theater kids said it's practically a given that any stage is haunted or has some kind of tragedy attached to it. The girl next door said so too. She's actually experienced cold spots on stage so many times that it's just something they all live with. Oh, let me add to last week's story. She was told a different version to the one we shared, very similar, but in her version, after her friend died, she wasn't the only one who didn't believe she could have taken her own life. This caused a big manhunt and uproar because the university and the police were insisting it was self-inflicted. But the actress had been suspicious of someone from the start, and on the last performance night, she actually believed she'd found proof, and then she was found dead. The theater crowd believes she was also murdered. So what do we think? A murder made to look like a suicide would be incredibly hard to prove. What kind of proof did she have? I wonder if these events are the jump tower stories Alex was working on. Some of you said you've seen video footage of previous plays and you can see a silhouette figure in the background, as if she's just watching. There was a long discussion around the idea that a character can consume an actor. Heath Ledger was brought up, as many believe he was consumed by the Joker role. Then the psychology students jumped in and had a heated argument among themselves about how she knew she would only stay until the last night, and used her character to play out her grief, and in doing so ended things the way her role did. I'll interject there, we don't know that the heroine dies in the play. But maybe they mean that since it was the last night of the performance, it was the last night for the role. Others added that grief over someone who died by suicide can, in some cases, drive another person toward the same. The comments feel dark this week. Let's move on to the story. I'm just gonna pick at random since I couldn't decide earlier. Here. The voice notes at 3:17 a.m. That's intriguing. Let's begin. Every year without fail during Blackout Week.
Ooh, I loved Blackout Week.
Ooh, same. For our non-Blackwood listeners, once a year, Ravenbrook and Blackwood University have a week where no one uses power or electronics. People make food on wood fires or gas stoves, use candles and lanterns for light, and people actually write letters to each other. Basically, you try to do things the way our ancestors did before electricity. The reason for this is that many years ago, there was a massive storm. Ravenbrook and Blackwood are usually safe from heavy snowstorms because of all the trees surrounding them, but this one came out of nowhere and was so severe that the power and phone lines went out. It was so bad that the townspeople couldn't even reach the power lines to fix the outage, so people gathered together in the town hall, school hall, and lecture halls to keep warm and make food. There were no casualties from this blackout, but it did make the people of Ravenbrook deeply grateful for power and the everyday things we take for granted. So once a year, usually the second week of November, everyone tries to do everything without power, phones, or internet. The restaurants actually make all their food on wood fires, though they only carry about 3 dishes on the menu for that week. The students have a big slumber party in the school hall, and it's a lot of fun. You don't have to participate if you don't want to, the hospital doesn't go offline, and many students still use the internet rather than book study only. So no pressure if you don't want to go off the grid. So that is Blackout Week. Let me start over. Every year without fail, during Blackout Week, a handful of people, students and townspeople alike, will receive a voice note at 3:17 in the morning. That isn't so strange in itself, but what the voice notes say is what makes it terrifying. Some of the people who receive them have their phone on airplane mode for the Blackout Week tradition. These 3:17 voice notes go back many years, and according to older townspeople, they started as phone calls on landlines, and a few people had answering machines that would record the call at 3:17. The voice in these notes is always someone the receiver doesn't recognize, and all the messages are vague warnings. Don't walk past the bridge. Go for a walk at 7. Don't become angry. Wait a little longer. Short, unclear warnings that don't make sense at the time, but later that day, they do. Some receivers walk past the bridge and slip on ice. Others go for a walk at 7 and happen to pass a neighbor collapsed on their floor and are able to call for help. But some messages aren't meant for the receiver at all. They're meant for one of the other people who also received a voice note. The person told not to become angry goes through their whole day without incident, while the person who needed to hear wait a little longer somewhere is the one left wishing they had. This phenomenon is something many of Ravenbrook's residents and students have experienced, and every year, as Blackout Week approaches, people also brace themselves for the voice notes at 3:17. Many have tried to make sense of it. Is it someone who can see glimpses of the future, but only during Blackout Week? Or is it something more supernatural? Some reports claim the voice in the note sounds like the receiver themselves, which introduces another theory entirely. Are people sleepwalking during Blackout Week? But that still doesn't explain the number the voice note comes from. It's never the same one. It doesn't connect when you call it back. And by the last day of the week, the voice has shifted. It's no longer the receiver's voice at all, but someone else's entirely. Many receivers in the past didn't trust the notes and didn't act on them, but more people have come to see them as warnings worth heeding. They've saved people from harm and from regret. So much so that every year when Blackout Week arrives, people announce it publicly so that receivers know who else has gotten one, because some messages aren't meant for the person who received them. Unfortunately, this openness has also led to people claiming to have received voice notes and using that to prank other receivers, and that is where the fear begins again. But there has been far more good than harm from these notes. Don't go over the East Bridge. The person who needed to hear this message didn't receive it directly. They only heard it secondhand, and by then it almost didn't matter. They crossed the East Bridge anyway, slipped, and nearly fell into the icy river below. Luckily, someone was with them. That person's message had read, "Don't let them walk alone." They were close enough to grab them before they went over the edge. Don't let him leave angry. A girl almost let her boyfriend walk out after a fight without resolving things between them, but the message made her swallow her pride. He stayed until they talked things over, later walking him halfway to his dorm. A tree collapsed across the path he always takes alone. She is convinced that message saved his life. Check your bag. A nursing student left the hospital late, waiting out the worst of the snow. The walk back was harder than expected, and her asthma flared up. Fortunately, she had her inhaler on her, which she would have forgotten had she not remembered to check her bag before leaving and realized she'd left it in her hospital scrubs. Blow out the candle. This message didn't mean anything to the person who received it, but worried enough, they tried to alert others, the people they couldn't reach by phone, they walked to. On that walk, a dorm room window caught their eye, too bright, too orange, and they realized it was flames. A student had fallen asleep with a candle burning and the curtain had caught. The banging on the window was enough to wake them before it spread. These are just a few moments the voice notes warned of something that could have ended very badly. But not every note felt like a warning. Some caused confusion. Some caused fear. She knows everything. This message caused panic for the receiver. Who is she? Is there a secret they've been sitting on? Is someone about to expose them? Or is it possible that deep down, they already know what needs to come to light? And what if this message wasn't even meant for them? Would sharing it ruin someone else's life? Don't answer the knock. What knock? Every knock made the receiver flinch, more so because she had already been experiencing strange things. Letters slipped under her door, notes tucked into her books, telling her how pretty she is, how perfect, how the sender wants her for themselves. And now this voice note, in a male voice she doesn't recognize. Good luck. Is this a warm, supportive good luck before a test? Or does the voice note simply have no warning to offer, no caution, no guidance for whatever trial lies ahead? What does it mean when all you receive is good luck? And then Blackout Week ends. And so do the voice notes? No one knows how. No one knows why. And no one knows why it only happens during that 1 week each year. There are a few theories. The first is emotional imprints left by the people who lived through the original blackout storm. Their fear, their desperate need to warn loved ones who hadn't made it to the town hall, who were still trapped outside or alone in their homes. Their emotions were so overwhelming that since then, every second week of November, something of that urgency remains, warning others from danger the way they once wished they could. The second is the forest. The forest has always protected the town and university from the worst of the weather, absorbing the force of storms before they can reach the buildings inside. But this storm broke through, and perhaps the forest has been trying to make up for that failure ever since, watching, seeing what its residents cannot, and sending warnings in the only way it knows how. The third theory is psychological. Every resident understands that Blackout Week isn't just a tradition, it's a reminder of how devastating that storm could have been, of how vulnerable they are, deep in the trees, with no way out if something goes wrong. And perhaps that shared fear creates something, a collective warning system born out of community and anxiety and the deep human need to look out for one another. All of these are just theories, but what makes this even more mysterious is this. The voice notes cannot be forwarded or saved. The contact that sent them disappears from the receiver's phone. Screenshots taken as proof show a voice note, but when played back, there is nothing. Videos recorded of the phone playing the message show only a phone playing silence, which makes you wonder, is all of this psychological? A way for people who live isolated in the heart of a vast, ancient forest to feel like something is watching over them? Or is there actually something watching over them? I'll leave that question with you, Blackwood Insomniacs. Do you believe this really happens? A mysterious voice note at 3:17 in the morning. Which theory do you believe? Or do you have your own? And have you ever received one of these voice notes? Or do you know someone who has?
I was with Alex when he spoke to someone who'd received voice notes during Blackout Week.
Yeah, I think I remember him mentioning that. I've also heard a lot of people talk about this, so I'm a believer.
Same.
That's enough from me, Blackwood Insomniacs. I hope you're all in dreamland by now. This is Allie. Good night, Alex.